to the Bianca Williams podcast. This is Bianca Williams, the host. I am so excited to have you here. Of course, you guys know I'm a therapist, coach, wife, and mom, and I like to get into self growth tips. We are officially in season 2, and so we're going to do this a little bit different because I have guests sharing their journeys and their growth. And through their journeys, I hope that you have some takeaways for yourself. For today, I have an amazing person. Her name is Dr. Christina Cobb. Woo, woo. Welcome, Dr. Christina Cobb. I want to tell you guys about her though. I want to tell you about her because she's like a powerhouse. Okay. So Dr. Cobb is an associate professor at Middle Tennessee State University, and she's the CEO of a nonprofit organization called Educate Her. Dr. Cobb currently serves as the national co-chair of the NOSS Mathematics Network, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, or short DEI, committee chair with TASSR, the membership VP with AAUW, and a committee member for the Tennessee Girls in STEM, or short TGIS program at MTSU. Also, Dr. Cobb, her service extends beyond organizational work. You say she has created a college mentoring program to help young women with the transition from high school to college through her nonprofit Educate Her. And for these endeavors and her classroom experiences, Dr. Cobb is widely recognized for her work in education and has received several awards, such as the Harold Love Outstanding Community Service Award in 2023, one of MTSU's National Women's History Month Trailblazers, also in 2023, MTSU Outstanding Teacher Award in General Education in 2022, the MTSU Outstanding Teacher Award in 2019, and the Outstanding Faculty and Learning Support Award from TASSR in 2021. I could keep going on. You guys, thank you so much for joining me, Dr. Cobb. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. And when you read that, it sounds like, oh my gosh, a little
I mean,
overwhelmed hearing about yourself. It's like, wow.
yes, like you got to say it out loud because, like, this is what you've accomplished. This is what you do.
True,
And
true.
yeah, in all of this, it's so interesting, even hearing like you've accomplished so much in the last few years because you've had your
Mm-hmm.
own journeys and like you've had some
Mm-hmm.
real transitions. And one thing I would say is looking at how you've been able to navigate that. I don't know what it looks like from the inside. You're going to talk to us about that today, but from the outside looking in, you just shine so bright. Like you just look like you are in your element right now in life. So I'm super excited to just learn about just what it was like for you and your personal journey moving through divorce and the lessons that you've learned along the way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And sometimes, like, what y'all see on the outside is not how I feel on the inside. Okay. Sometimes I
Absolutely.
feel like trash, and I'm like, oh my gosh, let's just start the day over. But, with the help of God and my support system, I'm able to accomplish a lot of things, like even in this transition through divorce.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so what kind of lessons did you feel like were helpful for you like when you were going through that? Because it's never, you know what I mean, a roadmap to it. It's
Hmm.
never like, oh, somebody else did this, so I'll just do that, and then it's the same for me. Like, no, you
Yeah.
emotionally navigated different, you personally, if you have children, like all of that like factors in.
Yeah, it does. And so let me start by saying, nobody gets married to get divorced, right? And so imagine like you taking this oath before God and you're like, okay, I'm gonna be with this person forever. And then your life is like erupted and you're like, okay, wait, I gotta make a decision. And it really took courage and a step of faith for me to step out and say, okay, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm gonna just go ahead and remove myself because of infidelity. And I was like, okay, I was scared and I was like, well, how am I gonna navigate this on my own? But I knew I had friends and family. And I knew I had a son that also looked up to me, and I'm like, I got to show him that, hey, I'm worth more than what I'm being treated, how I'm being treated. And so I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and do this. And it was hard. It was really hard. I had days where I was sad, mad, really depressed. But what I think work is what helped me continue to go on because I am a hard worker. I strive for success. So I think going to class, like it would be days where I would be crying at home and then I would go to work and like teach a lesson and they never knew what was going on in my personal life. And I would teach that math lesson like it was nobody's business. And I would go home and then my life would be in shambles. But at work, I was a stellar performance. Like I just so I had that balance, and I like would tell people like you never know what's going on with somebody in their home life versus what they show up and how they show up at work.
Yeah, absolutely. You said something so huge. Like you said, people do not go and get married with this idea that I'm going to get divorced one day. And so it's like you're building your life with somebody, right? Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
building a future with somebody. And then when it doesn't work, when something happens, when you have
Yes.
to like say, "Oh my gosh, I gotta step away from this."
Mm-hmm.
There's emotional challenges that come up with that. And
Absolutely.
now you have to rebuild your life. What was that like
Mm-hmm.
for you? Just like, okay, now I have to like move in this totally different direction than maybe where I
Yeah.
thought my life was going to go with this person.
Yeah. Now that was really hard for me. I'm not gonna lie. Like, and this is what people don't talk about when you get divorced. Like, because right after the divorce, I was like, man, did I make the right decision? Like maybe I should go back because like you just so when you get so used to being with somebody for so long because we were married for 11 years. When you get so used to being with that person and depending on that person, it's like I don't know if I could do this on my own, but it was really challenging. And I was like, oh man, I just have to just step out here and have courage to do that. But it was really hard. I'm not even gonna lie, especially when you with somebody so long. And I was so afraid of like, for example, living alone. Like I had never lived alone in like over 10 years, 10 plus years. And I was
Oh,
like, man, like how am I gonna live by myself? And then like how is it going to look for my child when he has to do with me 50% of the time and then his dad 50% of the time? Like it was just a really big transition. And it really took like taking it day by day to figure out how to navigate that and all of my emotions mixed in with it.
yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't imagine. I commend you. It's such a courageous act. And just like when I think about a relationship and especially a deep relationship like marriage, it's like the emotions that you experience are so similar to the emotions you would experience in a grieving process because is essentially the death of a marriage in a sense. And so
Mm-hmm.
you're still navigating this loss in this deeper way. Like this is never going to be what it was, and I can't go back to that place. And
Yeah.
if you said it was so important for you to have your support system, what role did they play in navigating those challenges? Because support is so huge when you're going through a major life transition.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that too. To go back, you said it's like grief. And I was at event and somebody was like this other lady, she was divorced as well, and she was like it's like grieving someone who's not dead. And I was like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, that is so true. And I was like, I never thought about it in that way. And after that I was like, okay, it's okay for me to feel this way and have this grief for and this longing for what I thought was going to last forever. But I had to step away from that. But my support system, like they were really there for me. Like it was days where I didn't want to get out of the bed and they would call to check on me. I even had a few work buddies that would call and check on me to see if I was okay. My friends, of course, showed up for me. And even if it was just a listening ear, like for me to vent and say how I was feeling at that moment, because some days, like I told you, I was angry, I was mad, sad. And so they just was there to listen and support me and give me advice and like, hey, okay, maybe you shouldn't do this. Don't blast that person on social media because it was plenty of times where I was really close at airing dirty laundry, but I was just like, they're like, no, girl, you too professional for that. Don't do that. So even if it was just like small advice or just being there for me to support and listening to me rant about my situation, they were really there to support.
That's very huge because when it comes to support, it's like really complicated because like sometimes you don't even know how to say what support looks like for you.
Mhm.
And I know for some people they like really want to fix it for you, and it's like this is not something you can fix in a sense. So
Yeah.
just the state of being. So you're like, if it was just calling, like somebody I could
Hmm.
just call and talk to, somebody who I could just get a hug from, somebody who could just be there, right? Like just somebody who could stop me from going over the edge. Like just having
Exactly. Exactly.
to be right, just be
Yeah.
present
Yeah.
and support and love and give you what you need, even if you can't articulate that, like knowing how to be there for you. And if you say all I need you to do is sit here and listen, like being able to sit there and listen, that's so huge. I
Sometimes you know how they say check on your strong friends. I'm one of them strong friends, so sometimes I'm not gonna tell you what I need. And so it took some of my friends just like, hey, let me come over there just to sit with you for a second. Because I wouldn't say, hey, I need somebody right now. Because sometimes we do that, especially as Black women, we don't really say what we need. We try to be strong and say face value like we're okay, and when deep down inside, like we're crumbling. And I'm like, oh man, I really need somebody right now. So that support system really meant a lot to me.
That's huge. So for you, you're like, because it could be a very lonely journey, and at points I'm sure it could feel lonely. You're like, I didn't ever like have to just be, silently struggling through this because there were people that understood me. There were people that accepted me for where I was at in my journey. There were people that supported me, even though this wasn't like my ideal life or what I wanted to do. And sometimes was questioning myself along the way. Just having people like shout out to the people that just support you, just have your back.
Exactly. You are so right. Because think about it. If you go from a house like that was a home and you have your husband and your child there to now you're in this new place and you don't even have your child there and you just in this house alone. That's a lot to deal with mentally. Like you're like, oh man, I got to go home alone to no one there. So that was a lot to deal with too in that transition. So having that support system, like, hey, I know you're over there by yourself. You don't have your child this week. We're gonna come over there. We're gonna cook dinner. We're gonna hang out. Like this, that really meant a lot.
That's awesome. And even though like divorce is such a like it kind of it seems like a cloud of darkness because it's something ending that represented love and family and all of these things, right? Um, what were like I imagine that there was an opportunity for you to grow and connect with yourself. Like what were the unexpected positives and personal growth things that you were able to experience through this journey?
Say number one, like I mentioned earlier, like facing my fears, because like that was a really big thing for me. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Like I went from like, having a two-person income to just myself and taking care of everything and just like not, wanting to be alone. Like I was so used to always having somebody there. So just facing my fears. And then not only that, just having the courage to just be like, okay, I'm not okay. And maybe I should seek help and get therapy, just that takes courage as well. Because sometimes we can say, oh, I'm okay, I'll be all right. I don't need therapy. And I even had a few people in my family like, oh, you'll be okay. You don't need therapy. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not okay right now. Like I'm really dealing with some emotional trauma from going through this never ending cycle of, being cheated on. And it's just like you feel like you're trapped and then you can't get out. And then it's like for me now, I feel like I'm very proud of myself for being determined to say, okay, no, I'm worth more than this. So I'm proud of myself for valuing myself more than being in a marriage just to say I'm married and to say, hey, no, I'm worth more than this marriage. Like I'm proud to say I found myself again. Like I will put myself on the back burner in the marriage and try to do everything for everybody else. But like I feel like I found my voice again and found who I really am meant to be. And I'm able to like not be so mentally exhausted worrying about what's happening in my marriage. So I would
Mm.
say those are some really like big takeaways for me personally.
Wow, yeah. First of all, I'm so sorry you went through that. I never knew the cause. So hearing
Yeah.
you even just talk about it, like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, it was almost like this battle between what I'm accepting and what I know my worth is, and
Mhm.
making this decision to like it's almost like a journey of self discovery, right? Like
Yes.
stand in my truth, to stand in my power,
Mhm.
to just take that risk and know that I am enough, I am worth
Mhm.
it. That is
Absolutely.
huge. And you mentioned, that like you had to, shift just even economically and all of that. And you're like an accomplished, woman. Like you have your
Mhm.
PhD, you are at a university, right? You're doing all of these huge, wonderful things. But I do realize like career, right, plays a big
Mhm.
role in our lives. And career was one of your coping mechanisms. You was like, if I can go
Mhm.
to work, it at least gave me some purpose to just shift my mind from that being my just daily thoughts to I have these other things to do. And it seemed like it brought you some joy. And so,
Mhm. Mhm.
me and just this educated powerhouse black woman in academia in STEM, right? like, could you share just your personal journey and just navigating that, why you got into that field, what has unfolded for you from being in this field?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me start by saying I started as a math middle school teacher. And I was on one of those temporary licenses, and it was like a 3-year cycle, right? And then I had to pass the practice exam. And I missed it by 2 points. I was like, oh, Lord, what am I going to do now? So then I saw a position come open on MTSU site. And I was like, I should apply for this. But it was a fall only temporary position. And I said, okay, I'm just going to take this leap of faith and apply for this position, even if it's just for a semester. And when I did that, the department chair, she saw me teach, and she was like, "Oh man, like you're a really great teacher, so we got to get you on full time." So I became a full time temp. And when I was working full time, I went back to school, got my doctoral degree in curriculum and instruction at TSU, and I was okay. So let me now try to apply for a tenure track position. And then I did that. I did win that position. And I currently now am tenured in my position as well, and I'm an associate professor. So it's been a long journey, don't get me wrong, but I am proud to say that I am now tenured and promoted, which you also don't see a lot of Black people in those type of positions in higher education. So I'm really proud to say that I did accomplish that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm proud of you too. I mean, you're representing out here for real. Not only do you not see a lot of black people, you don't see a lot
Mm.
of women. Like, okay,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And like the minority of like minorities for
No,
women and women, right?
exactly,
So
exactly.
being in a male dominated field, being in a field where you
Mhm,
just don't see a lot of us represented, what
mhm.
happened, some of the challenges congratulations. Hold on, let me just pause. Congratulations. Like, I just feel like I glossed over that. Congratulations. Like,
No, no,
wow.
it's fine.
You
Thank
never
you. I
know. Like,
appreciate
no,
that.
when you go into this, you
Mhm,
like, you know what I mean? Like, when you mentor people, which I love
mhm,
that you do this. When you mentor
mhm,
people, it's not like you could just say, okay, do this, do this, do this, and then this happens. Like, you
mhm.
never know what kind of like brewing blessing is waiting for somebody, what is in
Yes,
somebody else's path. And so you say, I
true.
took that risk, then it just
Mm,
blossomed into all of these wonderful things. The risk
absolutely.
is huge. And it's been like, and like the way God works, he'll show you like, okay, you did the right thing. You're following the right path because then
Mhm.
all of the blessings that's connected to that, all of the energy that's connected to that just keeps on being
It
magnetic to
keeps
you.
coming. That's right. That's right. You better preach. You better preach.
So hearing all of the accomplishments you made, all of the inspirations that were born from this, oh my gosh, I'm a fan over here. But like, what was
Oh,
it
I
like just
appreciate that.
navigating those challenges? Because you're like you said, like I'm a woman
Mhm,
in
mhm,
STEM, I'm a black woman in academia and in STEM. Like,
mhm.
come on, I know
I,
that wasn't easy.
no, no, that hasn't been easy. And I would say my number one challenge has been dealing with imposter syndrome. I would say that would be number one. And I'm not even going to say I dealt with it. I'm going to say still dealing with that. Like, because there's still some days where you feel like, oh man, like, do I really belong? Like, yeah, you have this, this EDD, this doctoral degree, but, and yeah, you're a great teacher. It says it's on paper and students have nominated you for all these awards, but then you still feel like this still small voice that's like, do you really belong? Especially when you work at a PWI.
Hmm.
It's like, do you really belong here? And I've dealt with that, still dealing with that. And I'm like, and it would be so bad where, and this is so true. I would be in a meeting and I wouldn't say a word because I was afraid of what I would say would either number one offend somebody, and number two would be something wrong. So I would just sit there quietly, and they were like, "Oh, Christina, you don't have anything to say." "Oh no, I'm good." And so I would just, take whatever they said and go about my business. But I look back on that, and I'm just like, I really thought I did not belong, and I'm like, and it makes it hard when you're in an environment where you don't feel like you belong, like you don't
Hmm.
see that many of people that look like yourself, and so it makes it even harder to feel that sense of belonging and that inclusivity when you look around and you don't see many people that look like yourself. So that's why I try to be that voice of reason for my students, especially the students that look like myself. While I'm working, I'm like, hey, like, how are you doing? Are you okay? Like, do you need help? Because I know how hard it is when you feel like you don't belong. So that's been my major challenge, being in this field.
Yeah. And I'm just, I'm sure you've heard this before, but I'm gonna say, like, you've earned to be in that space. Take up
Mm,
room, right? Have a voice.
yes. Yes,
because you have
yes.
accomplished what you were supposed to accomplish.
Hmm.
You are not there by happenstance, right? Like you deserve to be there. You've earned the
That's
right to
right.
be there.
That's right. Yes, yes.
I know a lot of women go through that, like where, oh,
Hmm.
I know I worked very hard to get here, but right, like unless I'm getting that constant validation or something that
Hmm.
absolutely tells me I'm supposed to be here, it's like a struggle when
It is.
representation is not there. So I just want you to know you do. You do.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I know for me, one of my like most exciting moments was when my daughter was able to participate in your program, and my other daughter,
Oh
she was too
yeah.
young, but she was like, I wanna meet her and all of that. And
Mhm.
so I was like, I knew you just had a heart of gold when you just like you didn't even think about it. You were like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and you know, and that's like, and I love that program because it's exposing young girls at a young age, like, hey, these are the fields that you can also go into. Because, like, think about it. I don't know about you, but I can speak for myself. Like, I wasn't exposed to those things when I was younger, and I wish that I was told that early on because maybe I would have been doing something else. But I like that it exposes them to, hey, you can do something in mathematics, you can do something in robotics, you know, in engineering, and then they go away and like, oh man, this is so cool. Like maybe I can do this. So that program is a really good program for young women and girls.
You know, you just said something. And I wasn't even thinking about this, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say it because like you just brought some. When I was in middle school, I mean I grew up in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
They have this program called it's at Wayne State University. It's called Wayne
Mm-hmm.
State University Math Corps,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to get referred by a teacher to go there. So I got referred by a teacher to go there. It goes through high school, through college, and that was one of the most like one of my best memories of being connected to a
Mm-hmm.
extracurricular activity was during the summer and somewhat on weekends during the school year, but it was all math. Like it was
Yeah.
so exciting. They made it fun, they
Mm-hmm.
gamified it. We had daily
Yeah.
homework. It was hard, but it was such a community and support around just promoting, right, like inner city youth,
Yeah.
like, just
Nice. Nice.
rewarded for math. So hearing that,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that you created that space in Tennessee, like I can tell you from my experience, I know like sometimes when you're on the other side of it, you like, I'm the creator, and I hear these
Yeah.
stories from, your
Yeah.
people, you're like, I don't always know what they're experiencing, but I know I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
something good. You are doing
Mm-hmm.
something phenomenal because those kids will remember that for the rest of their life. Like I still
Yeah.
think about them summers and we used to
Yeah.
have lunch in the yard. It was just amazing. So
Nice.
I
Nice.
love it. I love
That's what
it.
it's all about. That's what it's all about. Exposing them early so they can go out here and change the world.
Yes. Yep. So, and then you just kind of, mentioned some of the struggles that you face with just imposter syndrome and navigating some of that. But like, are there aspects of your identity, being a woman, being educated, being Black, like that has shaped your career paths and your interactions with different people in these fields?
Oh, absolutely. So I call myself like a triple threat because, like you mentioned, like not only am I'm a woman, but I'm a Black woman, and then I teach mathematics. So it's like, oh man, like she's a triple threat. But I use that to my advantage because I'm like, hey, it's not that many of us, right? Which I mean, it's we're coming along, in 2024, so there's more, but it's still not what it should be. But I use that to my advantage, like, hey, you need me in these rooms. You need to hear my opinions. You need to hear I need to be a part of that discussion so you would know like what it feels like being Black in America and in the STEM field. So you would know how to then relate to these students that we have that are also, Black and brown. And so I really use that to my advantage, but also it has its disadvantages as well. Because sometimes I'm in these spaces and people look at me like I'm the help. They're like, oh, they may think I am the executive A. I'm like, no, that's not my job title.
Yeah.
Or they're like, oh, well, she's just a lecturer, which shout out to all the lecturers. There's nothing wrong with that because it's people who have a PhD that lecture. But they'll think that you're like the lowest on the totem pole. And I'm like, oh, no, I've been here 11 years and I've been doing this and doing that. And I'm like, oh, we didn't know that. Where have you been? Like, I had somebody literally tell me, I'm not going to drop no names, but they was like, where have you been hiding? And I was like,
I'm in here the whole time.
I've been here for 11 plus years. Like, what do you mean? You just see what you want to see. Like, people, they kind of skim over you and like, oh, we're not going to get Christina to do this because, of what I look like, but they're going to get Jane Doe down the street to do
Mhm.
it. And so I've been passed up for a lot of opportunities. I would say that, that things that I applied for, things that I should have been, that I deserve, like opportunities with different programs because, and I believe it is because I am a woman and a
Hmm.
Black woman on top of that. But I have also had some opportunities open up for me because I am a Black woman in the STEM field. So I just say it's about 50-50,
Yeah,
good and bad.
absolutely. Oh my gosh. Do you feel like for you, you've experienced like significant career transitions in your journey, being in this place, having this kind of triple threat piece, but also being sometimes like stereotype, because I do think it's like this tone of, oh, she's Black and she's a woman, she's not. That's like, she's not good in STEM when
Mhm.
that's not true at all. Do you
Mhm.
feel like you've had like some significant career transitions? And if so, how did you navigate that?
Yeah, so I'm currently working so we have you know how you take general education classes in college. So we're transitioning to a new program called the Core, the True Blue Core. And so I've been the implementation coordinator for that. And so I've gained some administrative duties. And so I've got a lot of experience with administration. And so that really has made me want to thrive more in administration. So I am working right now on a few things. I got a few moving pieces that I'm hoping that will work out for me so I can then transition over to administration because you know how I feel like I can make a difference in the classroom, which I have. I mean, as you mentioned earlier about all the outstanding teaching awards I've won. So I know I
Yeah.
can make a difference there, but I feel like I only can make a difference in that one classroom with my students, but I want to be able to make a change from the top. And so
Mm.
I am striving to do it all. My goal is to be a director or a dean, but then eventually become a provost and the president of my own school, if that's in God's will. But I want to be able to be the person like I'm making all decisions for our students, like looking out for the best of them. And then it's not just about for students that look like myself, but it's for all students. Like yeah, I'm rooting for our Black students, but I'm also rooting for all students to be successful. And
Yeah.
so I want to be able to make those changes I can make it, starting at the top on down because I feel like I only can do so much in the classroom. So yeah, I'm working on working my way on up. But this position has allowed me to be in more spaces that I wouldn't be in usually. So I'm in meetings with the provost and I'm getting in front of the president, in front of these deans. So like my name is getting out there. So I really have enjoyed that. So I'm working on that transition now. So hopefully, fingers crossed, things will work in my favor.
I'm rooting for you. I love that. I think you spoke to something that resonates, like that impact, right? Like I know
Mhm.
I can definitely rock a classroom. I know I
Mhm.
can make
Mhm.
differences in students' lives one at a time. But impact is, how do I hit more people, you know what I mean? Impact more people in
Yes.
this positive way. Make sure
Mhm.
that I am being a part of the change, the solution, right, to some of the barriers in our industry and just education and, all of these different things. I want to have a seat at the table. I want to be able to be a part of change, right? And so
Yes.
I love that, and that's why I know, like, you deserve where you're at because you
Mhm.
speak to some things like, sometimes people pass me over, sometimes people don't understand like what I bring to the table, and then
Mhm.
it's like the fact that you at the table meant you earned it because you're right. People just look and they're like, oh no, I could go get Bobby down the street because I
Mhm.
know he's going to represent us and this, that, and the other. But no, they picked Dr. Christina Cobb.
Yep.
They said, I want her at the table. And MTSU, I don't know like what your experience with them is, but MTSU has impressed me in general, like just with my husband's journey because he studied
Mhm.
like computer science there and he was always interested in getting his doctorate as well. And I don't think they knew when he was,
Mhm.
initially pursuing it. But once they found out, they were like, "No, stay here, right? Like, no, we
Yeah.
we want you. We're gonna make this worth your while. Like, we
Yeah.
value you being here. You're a good student.
Mhm.
Like all of these different things. And so
Mhm.
I've in some ways been impressed with MT issues, just urgency to act on supporting and validating and valuing the people that are there. And I hope that's been your experience as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say, not to, call anybody out and teach you too much, but I am happy that that was your husband's journey. Okay? That was I can't say the same all the way,
Mhm.
but I can say that there has been people that have been rooting for me and helping me. Like I've had some great mentors that have put me in the right places. But I've also had some people that have put barriers in my way so that I want, move up to these spaces that I want to be in. Like, because you can't tell me that me being that I have a doctoral degree, I've been there about 11, 12 years, and I apply for, let's say, a certain position, and then I don't get this position, right? It goes to somebody else. Okay, I understand that, right? But then you have somebody else, Jane Doe down the street, they don't have a doctoral degree, and then they move up to these, associate, a vice associate, whatever, the case may be. It's like, well, how did that happen? Like, so it's
Yeah,
like it's got to be fair across the board. Like if you're gonna have a certain level, and I'm okay with having standards, and so you got to get to this point to have this position, but then it needs to be fair to everybody that
yeah,
is on campus. So that's what I'm having a problem with right now. Like I don't agree with some of those decisions. Like I know I'm not in the room when they make some of those decisions, so I may not be privy to some of those, conversations that happened prior to that. But from the outside looking in, it comes across very unfair. And you're like,
yeah.
oh, well, wait a minute, how did so and so get this position and didn't have to apply, and they just got
Mhm.
appointed. But here it is. I'm like fighting nail and tooth, and I'm applying, I'm doing all this, and then this didn't happen for me. So I can
Yeah,
only just speak for my journey. But your husband's journey was different, and everybody else's journey on campus may be different as well. But I just know for myself and some other people on campus, like things have been, a little different. It's a great place to be. Like we're all about student success and being there for our students. I love the students on campus, and I love my department. But like when it comes to like people of color moving up,
mhm.
that is like if we were to do a study there and see all the people that look like myself that are in some
Yeah.
of these higher ranked positions, you would be really surprised. Like, oh wow!
We
Like
do.
I remember being in one of the graduations, and I looked on the stage, and it was nothing but white men and
Mhm.
the president, one black man.
Yeah.
And this is
You
when
know,
I first started.
I'm always
Yeah,
impressed that the president is black there because I'm like, it's always just
it's,
what you see.
exactly. So I'm like, and I just remember that graduation. I just looked at the stage like, oh wow, like this is not very representative to our student population. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I can't wait till one day be on that stage to show. And like, we've come a long way. Like, we got a few female deans now. We
Hmm.
have a black dean of liberal arts. Like, so we've come a long way. Don't get me wrong from when I first started, but it was like really appalling to see like a stage full of white men and
Hmm.
one black guy for the president. It's like, man, where the women? Where are the women? So,
Right.
but we still have work to do, though. That's what I'm gonna say. We still have work to do.
Yeah. I think you hit on a huge point. So my husband was on the other side of the
Mhm.
student side. So maybe,
Yeah.
that was some other stuff with that. But like I definitely can I could definitely speak to just that glass ceiling stuff is so real. That, just idea that I know I'm qualified, I know I deserve to be here, but for some reason, I don't fit the whatever you're looking
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
criteria. And usually that whatever you're looking for has nothing to do with your talent and your skills. It's just, sometimes it's literally like bureaucracy and nepotism,
Mhm.
and all that. Like, not
Yep.
to call anybody out, but just if
Mhm.
you like that, I had positions built for me to where like formally they had to post it, but it was
Mhm.
already kind of for me. You know what I mean? So it was
Yeah.
like
Yep.
nobody else really had a chance. Luckily, I
Mhm.
know I qualified for it, so it wasn't an issue. But it
Yeah.
was like I see that happening in other ways. Like there's been positions
Mhm.
there, and it was like there was no way I had a chance, even though everybody around me wanted me there. But
Mhm.
because there was a major decision maker had like other intentions, like you get
Mhm.
blocked. And so that is so real, right? And then
Mhm.
just the representation. People don't understand how much of what is it, a microaggression that is to
Mhm.
see, like, okay, I want to see what my future can look like. But when I
Mhm.
look at like the top, right, this is what I'm seeing at the top. And so that's kind of
Exactly.
saying, you don't belong there, right? Like
Mhm.
it for you. Like, go find a position over there, or this is about as
Mhm.
high as you're going to get. When in reality, if you got like a percentage makeup of this, then your faculty should kind of represent that as well. And even
Absolutely.
at the top, at all levels. And so I'm hearing you, you're like, I see that glass ceiling, I see them doors. I'm still like going, I'm gonna break through. I got my
Oh, absolutely.
we're creating your own spaces. Like,
Yes,
oh,
yes, yes,
yeah, because
yes.
I was just talking to somebody about that. I was like, a lot of times when we're younger, we get taught how to like accept no over and over again.
Mhm,
And that
mhm,
follows us into adulthood because we're just hearing, okay, well, no, it's the end. You can't talk back. That's authority, all of that kind of stuff. And what I've
mhm.
learned in success is that no is never the end. Like, no is just, what do I need to do to get the yes? No is, okay, maybe this isn't the door I'm going in, but I'm going to create a door. I'm going to go to another
Yep,
door. I'm going to keep going
absolutely.
because I believe in myself. I have these goals, and I'm not going to let this one person's like decision for whatever reason stop me. So I do think there is a whole like ecosystem around the
Yes.
messages that is conveyed through what you see in leadership, the messages conveyed in how we're sometimes raised to, like respond to different things and aspire, right? And just continue to dream. I love that you said, I'm going to be the president of my own school one day and
Yeah,
create the rules and make sure that there's opportunities for everyone. Because that's what it's all
absolutely.
about. That's literally what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, like I said, like looking at that stage, it was just like, oh man, I didn't even see myself represented. But then, years down, like I told you, we do have a black dean, and she's a female, and then we had an interim, another black female that was an interim dean for another college. So seeing that, like, and, in one of our programs, like I now sent them an email after that. I was like, I almost wanted to cry, like seeing y'all on the stage, like seeing these two black women on this stage. Like it's like, oh man, like we're coming along here. Like, so I would say like it's definitely gotten better, but we're not where we need to be. But I'm all about keep striving and like you said, like taking that no as like not right now, or that's not the door I need to go in. I need to figure out what do I need for myself. But we still have work to do. But I'm hopeful that we're gonna get to that place where we're gonna break those glass ceilings, and it's gonna just be amazing.
Yeah, I love it. And you've already started making your mark. And I hear you're like, I'm not done yet.
Yeah, I'm not done yet. That's right. I am not done yet. Absolutely no.
Right. You're gonna know me. I'm gonna continue to wanna be a part of that purpose and solution and all of these just positive things to STEM, to like students, to girls, to minorities, all of these different things. Because
Yes,
yes, we need that. Especially right, especially girls. They just like there's so much that comes from us. There's so much that gets missed, so much that we don't know or recognize that we bring to the table. And so I love that you offer this space to make sure that they know, listen, I am here. I'm gonna
yes.
answer questions. I'm gonna provide the guidance. I'm gonna help open up some of these doors for you. I'm gonna write
Yes,
letters of recommendation, right?
absolutely.
Yeah, I support like bringing us in. As I'm growing, I want to make sure I'm not the only one here, right? And so I just love that. I love that.
And you know
um,
what? That's why I started educate her, because I wanted to be able to give back not only to my community but be that voice for these young women, because I know how I was, going in college and not knowing what I wanted to do and needing that guidance and that mentorship to say, hey, you can do this, like, and you can do this in the STEM field if you want to, but if you don't want to do STEM, that's fine. But you can still, get your degree and go out and be successful. So that's why I wanted to, be that voice for those young ladies in the college mentoring program for educate her. But yeah,
yeah, and a lot of people, to be honest, I admire people who know what they want to be when they 12 years old or something. Because and some people, of course, they're grown by their parents or somebody in their family to have a very clear, career path, and that's super helpful. But a lot of people don't know, right? They don't know. And so when you kind
hmm
of create opportunities, you're actually helping shape some of these young ladies' futures to be able to say, I don't, no, I know I got to have an answer. So I say something when people ask me what I want to be
yeah,
when I grow
exactly.
up. I like literally have a path created that I can choose to go on, right? Like if I just want to go in this, I'm already set up to start moving in that direction. And like you said, if you don't, that's fine. But you've gotten some foundation over here. And so I mean, because I started in music because music was there for me so much in my like childhood. So I was just like, okay, but I knew I didn't want to do a career in that. And so it wasn't even a bad thing. It just was like all I knew in the sense that I was just like, okay, music it is.
Yeah.
I could have did math too, but
That's right. That's right.
could have did math too. But no, like, I think it's huge to have mentorship, to have guidance, to have opportunities, to have exposure to things. Like that's one thing that
Yeah.
is so valuable in young people is having exposure to things because you think you know, but you don't really know. You don't experience. You don't know. And there's so many
Yep.
people that when they get in college and then they actually experience stuff. Sometimes they graduate from college and they experience the field and they're like, oh no.
Yeah.
So exposure is huge because you kind of get to
Yeah.
sort some of that, in advance.
Hmm.
You get
True.
to find
True.
hidden talents, and so
Mhm.
that's amazing. And one thing about you that I love is that you navigate like some complicated experiences. You navigate some things that people struggle to get through, and you do it with a smile. You do it with grace. And I hear
Yeah.
you. You're like sometimes it ain't that smile, but
Yeah.
like what you exude, right? Like I feel like what
Hmm.
pours out of you or what you represent pours out of you. So you kind of like you just kind of you're radiant. Like you just like what comes out of you is that I love myself. That
Hmm.
I'm gonna do things to try to uplift myself, take care of
Hmm.
myself. I want to pour love into the world, which
Hmm.
like you receive that back. All of that
Yeah.
comes back to you.
Yeah.
Um, so I just for you, I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm grateful that you were, willing to even come and talk
Mm-hmm.
about some of this today and share your journey. I know somebody needs to hear these things and
Hmm.
hear that you've been able to navigate that. You're still navigating it.
I'm
You're
still
on the other
navigating. That's
side
right.
of those fears, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just amazing to sometimes hear somebody else go through stuff and know that okay, I'm not alone.
Yep.
And oh my gosh, like what I'm feeling is normal. I've
Hmm.
been through this, right? All of these
Yes.
things.
Yes.
It's scary,
Yes.
but it was scary for them too. Like all of that.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and that's why I believe, I'm so glad you asked me to be on your podcast. I was like, I do need to start telling my story because like it's a lot of people that, they have no idea like, why I'm even divorced. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know, like, because things just look so good on the outside. But so I'm happy to, finally start telling part of my story. And when it comes to like my, experience in higher education, because with all the recent, news articles of everything that's going on with, Black people in higher ed, like it's really troubling, to hear like, and then, but it's also confirmation to know that you're not the only person that has gone through something, dealing with, people in higher education being Black and or being a Black woman in higher education. So I'm just happy that you gave me this space to tell a little piece of my story. So I appreciate you for letting me be on your podcast.
Thank you so much. I do want to ask you to share how people can contact you or find you if they're just like interested in learning more about your programs or just you.
Oh yeah. So you can email me at dr.christina.cobb at educateher.com. You can follow me on Instagram. It's Dr. Christina underscore Wilson underscore Cobb, or you can follow the Educate Her page, which is to educate her. Or Facebook, you can reach out to me on Facebook, which is just going to be Christina Cobb. But I am open if somebody wants to chat and get advice. I have no problems with it. I'm all about giving back. So I love to help our community, help everyone, because I want to see everybody win. At the end of the day, it's not just about myself. Like people always say, well, why do you want to do all this stuff and be the president? Well, it's not just for myself. It's not. It's so I can help everybody else. And so that's my ultimate goal. So if somebody needs help, they can reach out to me. I have no problems with that.
And she is like, for those who are listening, she means it because she is like
Mm.
literally just an open vessel of like
Mhm.
knowledge and love.
Mhm.
Like that's what
Yeah.
I've experienced, and that's what I know her to be. I've never seen you be anything but that. And
Mhm.
so, like, you are authentic to that. When you say
Mhm.
that, like, some people like, yeah, you can reach out to me, they'll never respond.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
no, she is like the real deal. So I listen, okay.
Oh,
Pay
that's
attention,
funny. I appreciate it.
connections, follow these people. They are like
Yes,
inspiration. And just
absolutely.
yeah, you're so inspiring.
Mhm.
So I thank you so much.
Thank you, Bianca. I really appreciate it. And I'm proud of you too, because you're doing your thing as well.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, again, you guys, you got to hear some stories about Dr. Cobb's, her journey with divorce, her journey with her career, and just stay tuned. This is season 2 of the Bianca Williams podcast. Also, check out season 1. We're on several streaming platforms for podcasts. We're also getting ready to go into YouTube. You may be watching this on YouTube. But yes, check out other episodes, and thank you for joining.